I asked my subscribers on the community tab to drop your most unpopular Call of Duty Zombies opinions. Today we're going to look at 9 random opinions, and I'll let you know if I agree or disagree. The final boss on Zetsubou is actually not that bad. I find it a lot of fun, and this is like the playground to use all of the equipment obtained in the Easter egg. I look forward to it every time I play that Easter egg, and the boss fight is a blast. Yeah, I do think it's fair to not necessarily equate something being easy to something being not fun. I don't think a boss fight necessarily has to be this big crazy thing at the end of the game that you're like shaking in fear of before you actually go into. I do agree, and I really do like the aesthetic of the final boss room, and I like maps that kind of give you a training room once you finish the Easter egg. Origins is another example of that. Once you finish the Easter egg on Origins, but before you throw up the Max's drone, you can actually get to high rounds like ridiculously easy just training in the crazy place. But the only caveat is you have to do the entire Easter egg first. Zetsubou is kind of similar in that sense. So I definitely don't hate the Zetsubou Noshima boss fight. I think it's a good thing. It would be kind of cool if the boss had some sort of attack just to maybe try to like keep you on your toes or whatever. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like, I don't think a boss fight has to be the hardest thing. Like, we don't have to have a Voyage of Despair or an Ancient Evil every single time we want to finish an Easter egg. The Mark IIs from Alpha Omega are actually really fun to use and not as lazy as people say they are. Maybe it's just the design and aesthetic, but I love using them every time I play Alpha Omega. See, I'm a really big fan of the original Mark II, and so like the idea of being able to have like 4 elemental versions of them is something that I really like. And I would say that the Rega Mark II upgrades are without a doubt like the one bright spot I have for Alpha Omega. It's like the one thing that makes me come back to that map, and literally I'm not kidding you, probably the only thing is those Mark II variants. Like how the map layout is and just how obnoxious the pack-a-punch system on that map is just keeps me away from it. But yeah, I actually agree. I think the Mark IIs were probably some of the best wonder weapons we actually had on Black Ops 4. I enjoy 5 more than Kino. Kino is good, but it's ultimately too monotonous to keep me interested. 5 keeps me engaged with tighter engagements and a more difficult experience. Difficulty makes the simple maps more fun in my opinion. I think if I want to play zombies, it all depends on the mood. Like, do I want to just literally vibe out and like watch a YouTube video and like half pay attention? If I happen to be in that mindset, then I'll probably prefer a map like Kino. But if I actually want to play and do something that's slightly more engaging, that keeps me a little bit more invested in what I'm actually doing, obviously the map for me is 5. So for me, it's entirely like hit or miss. Like, it just literally depends on the day. I will say that over the years, I've 100% played way more Kino to Toten than I have 5. I would say maps like Kino and Ascension are like the peaks of what you want to do when you want to play something more relaxing. But if I was on Black Ops 1 and wanted to play a slightly more engaging map, I'd probably lean into something like Shangri-La or Call of the Dead. 5 is kind of like that awkward, like smaller map that I just never have had that much fun playing. And at the end of the day, that's just the reason why I end up not actually playing it that much. Every Cold War map feels the same with its military zone aesthetic. If they add anything cool looking to the map, it's basically a variant of Purple Rocks. The other Zombies games, not Vanguard, all had an ensemble of unique settings and characteristics that made each map almost mystical. Cold War just doesn't do that for me. Considering how short this comment is, it really does get straight to the point of why Cold War is one of my least favorite Treyarch Zombies games. Like, I feel like when you're playing a game, you could sort of get a feel for how much work was actually put into the game. And I'm not saying that the Zombies team working on Cold War didn't put a ton of time into it, but in comparison to the older games from, I want to say, like Black Ops 1 to Black Ops 4, you can tell that there was huge cuts to the Zombies team. And you can see that in what this comment is talking about. Like, when building the Cold War maps, you can almost tell, and it's more of a feeling than anything, and I know it might be controversial, but you can almost tell that there wasn't quite as much love poured into handcrafting every single detail of the maps. The maps feel a lot more hollow. There's less little details that sort of add to the atmosphere of it. And I wish I knew more about game development and like different terminology just so I could articulate what's going on in my head, but it all kind of culminates into this feeling that a lot of Zombies players have when they play Cold War, that it's just not quite the same. I enjoyed Tag and Classified more than their original counterparts. I mean, to be fair, for 5, I wasn't that big of a fan of it in the first place. The only thing that really made the experience fun were the characters. Classified isn't much better, but it's a slight improvement. Tag, on the other hand, I do enjoy much more. For one thing, George isn't a problem anymore, so you don't have to worry about pissing him off. On top of that, I think there's a lot to do on the map, as well as getting free wonder weapons and get the yellow snowballs, etc. etc. I 100% agree with this comment, and I know that's extremely controversial. I agree with the comment that Classified kind of slightly made better the map 5, which wasn't that great of a map in the first place. That's kind of how I feel about that, and I'm somebody who really likes the map Call of the Dead. Like, it's a fantastic zombies map, but I have to say that I do prefer Tagged or Toten. Maybe that's just the inner Black Ops 4 Zombies fanboy in me. There's a lot more to do in it. There's an Easter egg that for me is actually really fun to do. There's a ton of little side Easter eggs, and I think the expanded areas on the map Tagged or Toten actually improve the map. In fact, I would say the only two map layouts that were actually improved by expanding upon them were Tagged or Toten and Classified. Like Blood of the Dead, everyone acknowledges that there's no point of the new spawn. Like, it's just extra area that nobody wants. The Warden's house, pretty much the same thing. And those areas are so far separated from everything else that it makes it a chore to actually go to. And Alpha Omega, like I could talk about that all day, how I literally never asked for a Nuketown remake and definitely didn't want an entire underground system built that's just annoying and dark and dreary and just areas that I literally want to shut my eyes when I go into because they're just so ugly. But yeah, I agree. Tag and Classified are great remakes to the originals. Vanguard Zombies is a mode that I should hate, but for some reason I enjoy. Even though it has no Easter egg, no pause button, etc., I still enjoy it. Something about the insane selection of weapons to choose and having smaller base objectives compared to Outbreak, it's just mindless fun for me. I also like the Dark Ether camo, even though it's the worst final camo in Vanguard. I think it depends on how much you actually play, because I played Vanguard a decent amount for the first week that it came out. I made several videos during that time, kind of pointing out everything that's wrong with it, saying why it's bad, you know, but the mode itself was fun for that first week. So if you're somebody that only plays video games on the weekends, maybe you're not somebody who gets on every day to play games, or maybe even Zombies isn't your main game, it's only something you do on the side, you could probably find some enjoyment in Vanguard Zombies. It's just not something that would keep me entertained to play day after day. Not only is there just so many flaws with it, it's just not replayable enough at the end of the day for me to come back to it. I think the Chaos storyline was underappreciated and should have been expanded more. I 100% agree, like they were clearly trying to end the Ether story and wanted to do something new, so they kind of set us up with this really cool storyline that for me was actually a little bit more interesting than the regular Ether. At least speaking about the Ether story towards the end of it when it got super confusing, but obviously they couldn't keep that story going simply because not that many people played Black Ops 4 Zombies, so they didn't have enough people invested in the first place for them to actually expand upon it, so unfortunately it's gonna be retired forever. Voyage of Despair is the second easiest Easter egg to complete in Black Ops 4. The only hard step is the planet step, but that's because of the claustrophobic nature of some of those spots. I mean, I can definitely name more than one Easter egg that's easier than Voyage of Despair, but is Voyage a lot easier than people make it out to be? 100%. It's not that bad. I think I made that point clear when I ranked all of the Easter eggs in this video. I'd rather play Infinite Warfare Zombies over any other mode. Infinite Warfare has Director's Cut, challenges to complete, a Fate and Fortunate card system, essentially gobblegums that are well balanced, weapon variants, legitimate key farming method on Shadow and Shuffle, and not to mention Space Lantern Rave in any Zombies game would make it one of the greatest. I've been playing a decent amount of Infinite Warfare Zombies recently, so I'm probably going to make a video or two coming up very shortly, but I think how I feel about Infinite Warfare is it feels like how most of the community views Black Ops 4. Like, the people that dislike Black Ops 4 usually attribute it to the engine just being bad and it doesn't feel like classic Zombies. For me, that's kind of how Infinite Warfare feels. Like, I like it on paper. Like there's a ton of Easter eggs, there's a ton of little side Easter eggs, there's just a ton to do. The wonder weapons are great, the maps are really cool, it's challenging. There's some of the most insane boss fights that we've had in Call of Duty Zombies history, but it just quite doesn't have that feel of Treyarch Zombies. But don't get me wrong, I do like it, and it's been growing on me a little bit more every time I play it, but something about the engine of that game just doesn't sit right with me. YouTube's algorithm thinks that you want to watch this video next. Why don't you see and find out if it's right?